The brothers Oscuro and the empty humidor. In the fog-choked town of San Lazaro, locals whispered about the brothers Oscuro, two brothers who ran a cigar shop that never closed, even when the rest of the street slept like the dead. Their shop, House of Oscuro, sat between a crumbling chapel and a tailor store that hadn't seen customers in 50 years. Every night, a thick, sweet smoke poured from under the door, the kind that made you dizzy but strangely calm. No one ever saw the brothers during the day. They said the shop's only light was the ember of cigars that glowed through the window like the eyes of demons. One stormy October night, a delivery boy named Michael brought a new shipment of rare tobacco leaves. When he arrived, the shop was dark for the first time ever. The bell above the door rang, ting, 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 but no one answered. The air smelled faintly of burnt cedar and something metallic. He crept to the counter where an old humidor sat open and empty. Its brass hinges squeaked softly, almost like a sigh. "Looking for a smoke, son?" a voice rasped behind him. Michael spun around. Two tall figures stood in the doorway, the brothers Oscuro, dressed in black suits, faces pale as ash. One held a half-burned cigar between his fingers, its ember pulsing like a heartbeat. "The humidor," Michael stammered. It's empty." The elder brother leaned in close, his breath smelling of smoke and something rotten. "Empty?" he whispered. "No, not empty. It's hungry." Suddenly, the lid of the humidor slammed shut. The walls groaned. The smell of burning tobacco filled the air. The brothers laughed, deep, echoing laughs that rattled the windows. Michael backed away, tripped, and fell hard against a shelf of cigar boxes. When he opened his eyes, the shop was quiet again. The brothers were gone. The humidor sat neatly on the counter, closed, humming softly. Michael fled the shop and never returned, but every October since, people have seen smoke curling out of the House of Oscuro, even though the shop's been boarded up for years. Some say the brothers Oscuro are still inside, rolling cigars for the dead. Others say the humidor finally got its fill. After all, a faint voice can be heard from within, muttering between crackles of flame. Michael was a bit dry, but he had a good aroma. And that, dear reader, is why no one ever delivers tobacco to San Lazaro anymore, unless they bring a lighter and a sense of humor. Because if the brothers Oscuro don't like your cigars, well, they might just smoke you instead. The brothers Oscuro and the cigar. That shouldn't be the House of Oscuro stood silent for 3 nights after the humidor's lid snapped shut on its own. No one dared enter, not even the regulars who swore the cigars inside were rolled with the devil's own patience. But on the 4th night, the open sign flickered to life again. Michael, the delivery boy, was passing by with a new crate of tobacco when he noticed smoke curling out from under the door. Slow, heavy, almost sentient. The scent wasn't unpleasant, but it was hypnotic, like vanilla and funeral incense mixed with moonlight. Against his better judgment, he stepped inside. The shop was dim, lit only by the glow of 2 cigars resting in crystal ashtrays on the counter. No one was there, or so he thought. "Evening, young man," came a voice, low and velvety as rolling thunder. From the shadows stepped the brothers Oscuro, both of them, identical down to their smoldering cigars and unnerving smiles. Their eyes reflected the ember's red glow. Michael trembled. I brought your shipment, sirs." "Finest leaves from—" One brother raised a gloved hand. "We know," he said. "But tell us, boy, have you ever tasted a cigar that remembers?" Before Michael could answer, the other brother tapped the humidor. It creaked open, and inside was a single cigar, thick, dark, and faintly pulsing, like something alive. "Rolled by moonlight," whispered one. "Cured in silence," murmured the other. and waiting for a final breath to light it. They offered it to Michael, the smoke from their cigars twisted together like serpents, forming strange shapes, faces perhaps. He refused. He tried to refuse, but the aroma reached inside him, found something curious and hungry. His hand moved on its own. He took the cigar. When he lit it, the flame turned blue. The shop filled with whispers, laughter, the clinking of unseen glasses. He saw the brothers fade into the smoke, first their eyes, then their smiles, then their silhouettes. Moments later, the cigar dropped from his fingers, still burning. Michael looked down to see gold embroidery forming across his shirt. Brothers Oscuro. The humidor clicked shut, and outside the open sign glowed a little brighter. The brothers Oscuro and the smoke that walks. They say smoke always rises, but in San Lazaro it sometimes walks. A week after the house of Oscuro reopened, townsfolk began whispering about a third brother. He looked younger, they said. Nervous eyes, the kind of man who hadn't yet learned to smile in the dark. He wore the same embroidered shirt, gold glinting under the shop's lantern light. But when he exhaled, his cigar's smoke curled into letters, names, the names of people who had died that week. Inside the shop, the two elder brothers Oscuro watched him with quiet satisfaction. Still green, one muttered. Still warm, said the other. Michael, if that was still his name, had stopped sleeping. He couldn't tell if the humidor whispered to him or if the whispers were him. Each night it demanded more. Another leaf, another light, another breath. Then one stormy evening, a woman entered the shop, her face veiled, her voice sharp as glass. "I need something special," she said. "A cigar for my husband's funeral." Michael hesitated. The humidor creaked open on its own. Inside lay a single cigar wrapped in black ribbon. The air grew cold. The older brothers stepped back, watching. When the woman lit the cigar, the flame burned red this time, not orange, not blue, but the color of embers that remember sin. The smoke took the shape of a man in a coffin, coughing, laughing, waking up. The woman screamed. The lights flickered. When the smoke cleared, the brothers were gone. The humidor sat open, and in the reflection of its brass hinge, Michael saw three faces, his own, duplicated, smiling back. The shop door swung shut. The open sign turned over to "Welcome." Outside, thunder rolled through San Lazaro, and from the chimney of the house of Oscuro rose three perfect smoke rings, drifting upward like halos for men who'd forgotten how to die. The brothers Oscuro and the last puff years passed. The fog of San Lazaro grew thicker, the air heavier. Travelers sometimes stumbled upon a dim glow in the mist, a crooked sign reading, "House of Oscuro, open all hours." Inside, three brothers worked in silence. Their cigars burned endlessly, the smoke curling like vines across the ceiling. Customers came and went, leaving lighter, quieter, somehow less themselves. Then, one peculiar evening, a government inspector arrived. He wore a clean suit, shiny shoes, and a badge that said Health and Safety. "Good evening," he said briskly, brushing away a swirl of smoke. "I'm here about the ventilation." The eldest Oscuro smiled. "Ventilation?" "Yes," said the inspector. "Locals complain the smoke never clears." "Ah," murmured the second brother. "That's because it doesn't leave." The inspector frowned. "Excuse me?" Before he could blink, the youngest brother, the one who used to be Michael, offered him a cigar. "On the house," he said. "You'll breathe easier once you've had a puff." Now, this inspector prided himself on professionalism. He never accepted bribes, never drank on duty, but the cigar smelled divine, earthy, sweet, alive. He took one puff, then another, and another. Delicious, he said, smiling dreamily. What's in it? The brothers exchanged glances. Memories, said one. Regrets, said another. And just a pinch of soul, added the youngest. The inspector tried to laugh, but the smoke caught in his throat. His badge clattered to the floor. His eyes glazed over like cooling ash. The brothers watched, patient and polite, as the inspector's shape wavered, shimmered, and vanished into a puff of smoke. Moments later, the humidor creaked open. Inside rested a brand-new cigar, the band embossed with 4 words, Limited Edition Bureau Blend. The brothers burst out laughing, real laughter, deep and thunderous, echoing through the rafters. For a moment, even the fog outside seemed to chuckle. And so the legend of the brothers Oscuro continues. They say if you walk past the shop on a foggy night, you'll smell smoke sweet as sin and hear faint laughter drifting through the mist. Some claim the cigars there never burn out. They just wait. After all, in the house of Oscuro, business is always good, and everyone, sooner or later, is dying for a smoke. Ashes remember. The fog returned, not from the sea this time, but from beneath the floorboards of the house of Oscuro. It drifted upward through the cracks, carrying with it the faint scent of burnt cedar, old rum, and memory. The humidor sat where the brothers had left it, closed tight, yet humming with the slow pulse of something alive. On the counter, 3 cigar butts rested in a line, perfectly even, perfectly cold. Then a knock. Soft, deliberate human. The door creaked open, and in stepped Michael. Older now, his hands scarred, his eyes deep with sleepless years. He'd taken over the shop in their absence, unable to stay away from its strange silence. He spoke to the empty air. "If you're still here, I could use a light." The room responded with the faint scrape of a match. A single flame flickered in the reflection of the old mirror. And there they were, the 3 brothers sitting in their usual places, smiling through the smoke. "You kept the shop," said the eldest. "We never thought anyone would." Michael swallowed hard. "I couldn't let it go." The youngest Oscuro gestured toward the humidor. "Then it's yours now. But mind the smoke." It remembers he opened it slowly. Inside was a single cigar, dark, perfect, and warm to the touch. A tiny tag hung from its band. It read, "Our finest blend for when the night grows long." Michael lit it. The flame burned blue. The room filled with laughter, low, familiar, comforting. When the smoke cleared, the brothers were gone. Only their chairs remained, faintly warm. Outside, dawn finally came to San Lazaro. The open sign glowed again, steady and bright. A new hand now kept the legend alive, and if you entered at just the right hour, you might swear you heard someone whisper, "Welcome to the family of the leaf." Then faintly, the sound of 3 glasses clinking somewhere beyond the fog. The ember returns. Years passed in San Lazaro, though time never seemed to keep its footing there. The sea still whispered against the docks, the fog still wandered through the alleys, and somewhere in the middle of it all, House of Oscuro burned its single bulb through the night, eternal, unbothered, alive. Michael ran the shop now. He wore the same coat his father once did, the same steady expression, the same patience that only cigar smoke can teach. Customers came and went, drawn less by the tobacco and more by the feeling, that strange comfort of knowing something was watching over them in the haze. But lately the smoke had grown strange again. It lingered too long. It curled in letters. It whispered names. Then one night the humidor opened by itself. Michael didn't flinch this time. He'd grown used to the house's moods, the creaks, the whispers, the occasional jazz note that played with no record spinning. But this was different. Inside the humidor lay not cigars, but ashes, warm and bright as ember coal. They glowed in rhythm, 3 faint heartbeats pulsing together. From somewhere deep in the back room came a familiar voice, smooth and dry as aged tobacco. "You've kept it burning, Hee-ho." Michael froze. The air grew thick with scent, rich, peppered, a ghost's cologne. 3 shadows stepped out from the fog between the shelves. The brothers Oscuro had returned, their faces aglow in amber light. "The smoke remembers," said the eldest. "But so does the flame," said another. Michael bowed his head. "I thought you were gone." "We were," the youngest said, grinning. "But you lit the right cigar." They laughed, a sound that filled the shop like music. The lights flickered, the walls breathed. When dawn broke, the neighbors saw the open sign glowing brighter than ever. The air smelled of cedar and sweetness, and behind the counter Michael stood smiling, the humidor beside him, its brass edges faintly smoking. If anyone asked how the brothers Oscuro were doing, he'd simply gesture to the ceiling, to the rising tendrils of fragrant smoke. "Still blending," he'd say, "still watching." And when the fog rolled in and the lights dimmed low, 3 chairs in the back of the shop never stayed empty for long. The flame never dies. It only changes hands. Smoke never dies. The house of Oscuro stood still, its wooden bones sighing under the weight of another October night. The moon, pale and swollen, hung low above the crooked chimney. A faint hum lingered in the air, not of wind but memory. Inside, the humidor sat once again full. Rich, dark cigars lined the cedar shelves, their wrappers glistening with the faint sheen of oil. No one could quite explain how the stock had returned or how the lock, long broken, had fixed itself. Michael, now the quiet keeper of the house, moved like a man who carried both peace and burden. He lit a cigar slowly, reverently, watching the smoke curl toward the rafters. Each tendril danced as though whispering secrets to the ghosts in the shadows. "Still watching me, aren't you?" he said softly. The smoke thickened, and in it, for just a flicker, he saw them. The brothers Oscuro, calm and steady as the flame itself. They nodded once, proud, their faces carved from shadow and ember. Then, as the wind moaned through the cracked window, they were gone again. Michael exhaled. The shop felt warmer somehow, the air rich with the familiar mix of oak, ash, and the faintest sweetness of aged tobacco. He smiled. "I'll keep it lit," he said to the empty room. Outside, the sign flickered, open, one last time before sputtering out into darkness. But as the moon slipped behind a cloud, a faint glow stirred inside the window again. Not the red of the sign this time, but a pulsing amber light, slow and deliberate like a heartbeat. And from the alley a soft voice, childlike, uncertain, whispered, "Excuse me, are you still open?" The door creaked. Smoke drifted outward, curling into the night. The house of Oscuro was not done yet. Not tonight. Not ever. See you next. Halloween.